Hey everybody, and welcome back to youtube.com/DyllonKG. Today's video is going to be a little bit different and explore a bit of a different side of Dead by Daylight than typical tutorials, but bear with me here. This is about toxicity and toxicity in the community. Surely most of us have felt it. We get teabagged by survivors who pallet stun, maybe they wait at the exit gate while moonwalking and flicking their flashlight. Hell, maybe even the killer slaps you while you're already on the hook and face camps you to death. Any one of these singular moments could be enough to make us red with rage, but why is that? Why do we get so involved, and why do we get so frustrated when these things happen, and how can we potentially reduce that feeling? Well, we're going to explore that. Before we get started, if you want to come hang out in our laid-back educational stream on twitch.tv/DyllonKG, we stream 4 days a week. The schedule is down below. We do try to help you understand the game more, and we have a great time doing it, so consider checking us out over there. But anyway, hopping back in to the conversation about toxicity. Now, let me disclaimer here, I'm no professional. Let me get that out of the way. But I think the toxicity in competitive games comes a lot from internal frustration. This article from SEKG proposes that we play video games and are constantly drawn to them through something called the self-determination theory. Basically, this theory states that we need three things in life: competency, autonomy, and relatedness. Competency obviously being our ability to execute tasks and master skills, autonomy, which is our need to have control over the world that we live in, and relatedness, relating to or having relationships with other people. Now, this article from The Guardian also discusses the idea that video games aren't necessarily about power trips and feeling powerful, but instead having control in a world, especially in contrast to the idea that we don't have as much control over our lives as we think we do. So, I think video games start to become something we engage with for pleasure or feelings of control. I know I personally have turned to multiplayer games my whole life to feel a sense of skill and mastery, feeling good at something, to also feel like I do in fact have control, especially over, other players and things like that. Especially in times where my life has been rough. A bad relationship, a bad job, bad days, I lean on video games more and more to make me feel good about myself, make me feel in control. And I think that is where something changes in competitive multiplayer games. The reality with multiplayer games is that you really don't have control. Dead by Daylight may pair you with subpar teammates who crouch walk slowly everywhere the entire match only to die incredibly quickly. Or as a killer, you just get bullied by survivors with flashlights and pallets in a swift team. Maybe you don't even catch the survivors more than a handful of times. So, not only have you engaged with a multiplayer game to have a sense of control, only to have that control stripped away, but your competency has also been challenged. Your skill is being challenged, right? Which is part of the things we need in life. Autonomy, mastery, and relatedness. Your control over the environment, the outcome is challenged. Your skill is challenged. Now, if you add on getting teabagged, flashlight flicked, if you add on getting teased, not only has your own perception of your skill been challenged, but it also feels like you're being actively mocked, like other people are actively putting you down. This is where I think human ego comes into play. This article, via Futurity, shows a study done by Oxford researchers with regards to video gaming. They say, quote, "Any player who has thrown down a remote control after losing an electronic game can relate to the intense feelings or anger that failure can cause." This is by the lead author, Andrew, his name is right there, who is a researcher at the Oxford Internet Institution at Oxford University. Richard Ryan, who is a motivational psychologist at the University of Rochester, says that this experience isn't even unique to gaming. In sports, players may lose a game as a result of a bad call and be very frustrated, obviously. He says, quote, "When people feel they have no control over the outcome of a game, that leads to aggression. We saw that in our experiments. If you press someone's competencies, they'll become more aggressive, and our effects held up whether the games were violent or not." So basically what these researchers did was they put together a study where people would soak their hands in what they said was painfully cold ice water for 25 seconds before playing a game that was either difficult or easy, and the game sounds like it was Tetris. The participants were led to believe that the time required to soak their hands was predetermined by the prior participant before them, when in fact it was always 25 seconds. After they played the level, they were asked to assign the next participant an amount of time to soak their hands. Shockingly, the participants who played the more difficult Tetris levels assigned higher timers to their would-be following participants, on average. Now, let me repeat that. The people who had their competency and skills challenged and were more likely to be frustrated were also more likely to push that negativity and frustration onto other people. Going back to the article from Futurity, quote, "When the experience involves threats to our ego, it can cause us to be hostile and mean to others." And now here we are in Dead by Daylight. For those of us on PC, we've seen the post-game chat shit-talking in Dead by Daylight. The team dissolves and starts yelling at each other over who did what or didn't do anything. The killer yells at the teammates. The teammates yell at the killer, say he was a camping tunneler and that he's a piece of shit. People raging and leaving comments on your profile just because of how terrible, quote-unquote, you were. The above studies and articles would suggest that people get most frustrated with video gaming and take that frustration out on other people when they feel they have no control and when they feel their skill has been challenged and, in fact, in some cases, their skill has failed. Statements like, "God, these teammates are the worst," may potentially be a deflection to protect one's own ego, one's self-esteem, one's self-image. It's a way of saying, I'm still competent and great at the game. We lost because of somebody else. It's their fault. It's not my fault. And yet there is a frustration at the complete lack of control that the survivor had at the outcome of the game. I think many of us get mad that we get teabagged or tunneled or camped. If you get taunted by survivors, it doesn't mean you're dumb. And while that may be a person who's trying to flaunt their skill at you, it doesn't make you less of a human being. Perhaps post-game chat would be less toxic if our lives were less chaotic. Some of my most toxic times in online gaming were when online gaming was all I had. It was all I was good at. And so bad matches broke me down and made me feel like I had nothing anymore. Made me feel like I was bad at everything in my life and I had no control. Maybe I'm reading too far into it, but perhaps letting go of this idea we should always have control in a match would help us to feel better about the outcome of it. Lots of hypotheticals here, but I've started trying to let go more, and it has certainly helped my frustration. Instead of trying to get a win every single match, I'm trying to just enjoy the experience and see where I can personally improve. That way, I don't feel like my skill is being challenged as much. If somebody teabags me and flashlights me, that's okay. That's fine. Because that doesn't make me worse at the game. Maybe they're better, so how can I improve instead of feeling like I'm dumb? I get regular comments here on YouTube about people that are highly frustrated, upset, or down on themselves even for playing the game. And for you guys, I hope this video maybe helped give you some perspective as to why people get frustrated and maybe how we could counteract that. But I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Remember, I'm not a professional. I'm just piecing together something that I find highly interesting. Do you want to continue to explore this topic? Of course, I love you guys. Thank you for being here, and I'll pray to the entity to see you in the next video.